Preserve your memory and favorite days. Come online to the newest craze. The digital scrapbook, the way you want it to look. With digital scrapbook kits, fun and full of wit, you log in today, you won't be able to quit. Come on over and you'll think it's the bomb. Nitwitcollection.com.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to our second video. This is going to show you using your digital goods and actually taking them to resize them so that you can save yourself some paper, some ink, and actually have the elements and the papers the exact size that you want so that when you're printing it out, you can just go ahead and craft with them immediately. Let's get into this right now. I'll get out of my Photoshop elements here and I'll show you this. What we're going to do is talk a little bit about software. This is a quick segment. I don't want you to think this is going to get all techno on you. You do need a little bit of software when you do this. And the best one that we found is Adobe Photoshop Elements. And I will put that at the bottom here for you so that you'll remember this. You don't need to remember it right off bat. Adobe Photoshop Elements is the best program to use, as it is so easy to use as a beginner, and then it's got a bunch of extra tools in it that you can certainly use if you want to become a little more advanced. You'll never need to buy another program again. This is the program that is pretty much the standard and uses all the standard terminology, so that's why we usually recommend it. Now, Adobe's been good enough in order to say, we will give you a free trial. And they will give you a free 30-day trial on this, and you can simply download it from their website at adobe.com. Now, when you first log on, you're going to ask, and they're going to say, get an Adobe ID. All that they're going to ask you to do is just set up a simple, quick account where you give a name, an email address and a password, so that way they're tracking the particular product so that it will expire after the 30 days for you. If you decide you like it after 30 days, you can go ahead and purchase it, and it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $79 US or $89 US. Sometimes they have a coupon code, sometimes they put it on sale, but that's roughly what the program costs. It's not a very expensive program, but you get a lot of bang for your dollars. This is a download as well, so you can do this right from your home. You don't have to buy a program from the store or anything like that. Once you've downloaded, you're going to end up with an icon on your screen, and you're going to double click on it to run the install part of the program, so that it'll take it from a download and actually put the program on your computer. Very simple process. It only takes you a couple of minutes, and you just answer yes or okay to all their questions. They ask you where you want to install it to. They pick good spots in your computer, so you can just keep going through it. Once it's been installed and it'll say finished installing and you're ready to go, you now double click on the icon and you click on Photo Editor, and up it comes for you. When you start it up, you're actually going to be, this is exactly what it will look at, and you will have Windows Elements Live. This gives you tips and tricks about how to fix up photographs if you want, different ways that you can use. Here's getting started guide for using Photoshop Elements, everything else. Well, that's kind of what we're doing here. I want to just teach you the things you need to know, and so that you can get going quickly with this and actually utilize the program. Now, when we first start, you are going to notice that there's a whole pile of tools here. There's a layers panel down the side, and we're going to talk about each of those things. But basically, it's almost like new cars today. You have so many things in those new cars with cooled seats and navigation systems, and you can adjust your radio and it'll answer your phone for you. You don't need to know all the things that are in here. We're going to use about 4 or 5 key tools in here, and that is all you'll need to know for the program in order to get it to do exactly what you want it to do, so that you can craft in physical paper. So in starting out, I will just close this out. Actually, let's just make a new one. Where we start is, let's just start over in the tool section. This is your move tool. This is your main tool that you're going to select where you have your cursor. In order to open a new project, we go up to File, we choose New, and we want a new blank file. Now, for us in North America, we prefer inches. That's our standard paper size is 8.5 by 11. When you start it up, it'll actually have some different values in here. We'll just say like that. But for those of you who are in Europe and the UK and some of the other countries, you're fully integrated into the metric system. So you may want to choose centimeters or millimeters, as you know what size your A4 paper is. So you'll want to choose that in order to get the appropriate paper size. For us here in North America, I'm going to choose inches, and we are going to say 8.5 inches wide by 11. So we have a standard size sheet of paper. The next section down says resolution at 300 pixels per inch. This is high quality. This is actually what you want, because you want a really good print to come out of your printer, and you want to work with the graphics in a very high quality. Color mode doesn't matter to you, and background contents. You can choose a white background, you can choose your own color for the background, or you can choose transparent. I like transparent, and we'll press OK. I'll just exit out of this one because I already had one going. The reason being is, I'll scroll in here, you can see the little gray and white grid pattern that is on here. It helps you just to line things up. It makes it a little easier. So there's transparent. So transparent means you're working with like a clear sheet of paper, like vellum or like a laminate kind of thing. There's no color to it whatsoever. So let's get right into it here and do something for you. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to go up to View up on the top. We'll click View, and we'll see Rulers. We want to turn that on for a second, and you'll see why. This is, again, calibrated in inches because that's how we've calibrated our page, or it'll be in millimeters or centimeters for those of you using that. When we first go in, what we want to do is, let's just, as an example, you can use this for any kind of craft project that you're doing, but as an example, let's just say we're going to make a card. Well, in order to make the card, we know that, let's just say it's a 4.25 wide by 5.5 tall. Well, you can see that we're going to be able to utilize these rulers in order to make a little box for ourselves. We're going to go over to the side in our toolbar, and under the word draw, under those tools, you're going to see a tool, and yours will look a little bit different when you standardly open it up. Yours is actually going to look like this. And it has that squiggly star shape, and that's called your custom shape tool. But what we want to do is at the bottom here, you'll see you can choose from rectangle, rounded rectangle, an ellipse. You've got all kinds of shapes to choose. We want to choose the square from there because we want to make, the rectangle, because we want to make a rectangle. Now I'm going to zoom in on my page, and you can do this too because it may be easier on your eyes. You hold down your Control key and you press the plus sign on your keyboard, or in Mac you hold down Command and plus, and you can see we can get bigger here. What we want to do is we want to create a rectangle that is 4.25 wide by 5.5 high. So what I'm going to do is, I don't know if you can see this or not, but there's a little line as I move from left to right. You can see the little line up there that's moving across the ruler. I want to center that on the little number 1 mark, and down the side now, where I'm moving it, you can maybe see that going up and down. I want to center that on the number 1 mark. So I'm starting at 1 inch and 1 inch. Now what I do is I press down my left mouse button and hold it down and drag. You can now see that there's a little box over here that's telling me exactly how big I'm making it. So we drag it out until we get 4.25 or 4.25 by 5.5. And if it's a little bigger or whatever, that's okay. We just want a rough shape size. Okay? We want to now just back out of this a little bit so you can see it again. We want to now go over to the Layers panel. Over on the Layers panel, what we're going to see is, think of them like sheets of paper. You have sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3. That's exactly what the Layers panel is doing. What we want to do is we want to create another sheet of paper on top of this. So if you look up in the upper icons here, the first one in the sequence says Create a New Layer. If you click on that, now we have another layer going on top. And this I'll show, this will make sense to you here in this next little bit. What we want to do now is go into our, let's get out of these ones. And we want to go into our Always and Forever file that we had just purchased in the original video. And we want to choose a paper that we're going to use on there. So let's say our primary background paper, look at this beautiful roses paper. That'd be a really nice background paper to use in our card. So we're going to grab that, hold down, they call it drag and drop. You hold down your left mouse button and you drag it up onto your screen here. And it creates a new tab up at the top here, and that's where your paper is in. In order to use this paper, let's go back up to our move tool. Let's select that. Now we again put our move tool over on top of our paper. We hold down our left mouse key or mouse button, drag it to the first tab in our sequence, and move it back over across to your work area and let go of your mouse button. And there you go. It's now placed it in there. Now, what we're going to do, I'll show you this in a second, is scroll in a little bit here. What we want to do is we want this paper only to be the size of that little black box that we created. So there's our little black box. I'm just clicking on the view of it. So we only want that size of paper because that's how big our card is going to be. So hold down on your keyboard the Control and press the G key at the same time. Now it said, hey, I've gotten rid of the rest of the paper. The only visible part is what that little black square was. Okay, so we've got that paper. Now, because of the size of the paper, Mary Fran creates the papers at 12 by 12, 12 inches by 12 inches. And all the elements are going to be really large, which you're going to see in a second. And the reason that is because no matter what project you're creating, Mary Fran has tried to create it in a size that it'll work for no matter what product. So your project is going to, obviously, is quite a bit smaller here, and we don't want the pattern in the paper to be this large. Well, this is where the resizing comes in. I don't know if you can see this on your screen, but I will move my cursor around. There's a little dotted box around here, and that shows the original 12 by 12 size of the paper. So they're saying that's how big your actual paper is. This is just the viewable part. This is called a bounding box, and what we're going to do is up in the top right corner, you'll see them all over the place, but up in the top right corner, you're going to see a little square. Click on that little square, and all of a sudden your cursor changes to two little arrows, little opposing arrows. That means that now you are in or have the ability in order to resize. So in order to resize, while those arrows are on our screen, we simply click down our left mouse button and hold it, and we move. And you can see how that is shrinking it. Not to worry that we've come off the box, we're going to move that around. And here you go, we just use our move tool and select it and pull it up there. So once, I'll scroll in here so that we can see this, that actually is a nice size of the pattern of the paper in order to work within the card that we're going to create. Now, since I want to go back, I can actually go edit and redo the free transform. So you have that option as well. So this is what I was telling you about the tools. It has all kinds of options that make it very easy for you. Now, we're going to come over to the layers palette here. When we go to print this item, we don't want any of this extra paper, basically. I know we can't see it, but it's technically still there. What we want to do is make that paper and only have that black squares worth of paper. How we do that is we go over to our layers panel, we hold down the shift key, and we also highlight that layer that has the black square on it. But now both of these are highlighted. We come up to layer and we choose merge layers. Now it's made that paper, I'll scroll out so you can see this, now it is only the same size as that black box that we originally created. That's the perfect size, so when you print it out, it's going to be exactly that 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 that you were looking for your card. Okay, now the next thing we want to do is add some elements. So let's go back into our folder here, and this heart is actually kind of nice. Let's choose that. Here we go. It brings it up into a new tab again. This works exactly like your website browser where it brings everything up in a new tab. Again, we hold our cursor over top of the image, we press and hold the left mouse button, and we drag it to the first tab because that's our working area. So here we go, and then we can move it around, do whatever we want. That's kind of big, so again, let's shrink this. We put our cursor up into the top corner of the bounding box. We get the two little opposing arrows, which means that's the action that's going to take place. We press and hold our left mouse button, and we shrink this down. So that's probably more about a better size for us. And again, we have to click the green check mark to say, yes, I'm happy with what I've done here. Let's add in another something here. Here's this flower cluster. So we click on our left mouse button and hold it, drag it into our work area. It creates a new tab for us with it. Again, we press and hold our left mouse button, we drag it up to our original tab, and we drop it in here. Drag and drop. I guess somebody really was thinking when they named this. Again, see how large this is for this particular project? Way too large. So if you were just printing that out, well, now how do you make your card with it? And that's the point of this video here. Again, let's go to the top of our bounding box. I see the two arrows appear, the opposing arrows. We shrink it down and we say, you know what? That's about the size that I think would be appropriate for my card. I click the green check mark to say, yes, that's what I want to do. So what I'm seeing going on here is we're going to need a secondary paper to go in behind these things when you're creating the card. This is just simple stuff. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go up, and again we're going to go to the layers panel, and the top icons, and the first one in the sequence is create a new layer. So we're going to create a new layer. Now we're going to come back over to our tools bar, and we're going to click on our rectangle once again, which is already chosen for us. It remembers the last one that you chose. So what we're going to do is we want to create a new layer because we don't want it to draw it over top of something else. We want it to be its own separate thing, just as it creates a new layer for you when you put an element on, like it did for the heart and for the flower cluster that we placed on there. So what we're going to do is we're going to say probably about here, and this you can just do freehand. You click and hold your left mouse button, you drag it, and you say, that's about right. I like that. Okay, I'm scroll in for you and say, yeah, that's about the right size that I want. You can always change that size by selecting your move tool once again, and you'll see there's the little squares around the corners of the bounding boxes and in the middle. If you thought you wanted it a slight bit bigger, let's hold it in the center of this box. You'll see the two opposing arrows appear, and see how I can drag that and make the width a little wider. So that's the way you can adjust it. Now, as you can see, the black square is on top of everything. Well, that's not the position I want it. And this is where I was talking about how layers work, where it's like pieces of paper, where you have sheet 1, sheet 2, and sheet 3. Well, we'll call this sheet 4 because it's our layer, the way it's stacked up in our layers. If we put our mouse over it, hold down your left mouse button. Sorry, I had forgot to, after I moved, to click my little check mark there. We're going to click and hold our left mouse button. I'll just drag down one layer so you can see, oh, okay. So now the heart is still underneath this, but the flower cluster is on top. We're going to want to drag it down even one more layer, and there we go. So it's in behind everything. So it's kind of looking proper for you. This just is something simple so you can actually see it kind of take shape for yourself. Now we need to put a paper on that. So if we go back in here and we look around and we say this flower taupe, well, that's kind of a nice paper. That'd make a nice background where it gives it a little bit of interest but not too much pattern. Let's, again, hold down your left mouse button and drag it in there. Creates a new tab for us. We click on it and hold our left mouse button. We drag it up to the first tab, and we release our mouse button when we're on top of our workspace. So there we are. Now again, in order to get that paper so it's only viewable and only being seen on that little black square, we hold down our control key and we press G at the same time, or Command G if you're using a Mac, and there we go. Now we have that paper only viewable in that little black box that we had created. Now I'll scroll out again. Again, you'll see the big bounding box because that's a 12 by 12 sheet of paper. We don't want that, and we also want to shrink the pattern in it to make it look acceptable. So let's go up to the top of our bounding box, click on the little square up there so that we have the opposing arrows so we know that we can shrink, and I'll shrink it down to about like that. I'll move it up, and then I'll zoom in using my control and my plus key on my keyboard and say, you know what, that's actually a pretty nice pattern. Maybe I'll make it a little bit smaller. There we go. There's about the size that I want. Again, it's asking me to say commit to it or not commit to it. I'm going to click the green check mark to say yes, that is what I wanted. Once again, we want to erase the rest of the invisible part of the paper, and we do that by going to our layers panel. We click on we hold down our shift key, we click on our shape 1, so now both of these layers are highlighted. We go up to layer, we choose merge layers, and now we have this paper is only the size of that black box that we created. So there you have it. You're really coming along. We're pretty much almost done here. I'm not going to belabor this and make a very elaborate card. I maybe just want to add in a couple more items. Let's go in and choose, just to give you a little bit more practice here. I'm thinking of this tag. Wouldn't this be a cute tag to have on your card? Whether you maybe glued it or didn't glue it on, but maybe you slid it in behind the heart. So let's go ahead, click your left mouse button and hold it down, drag it up onto here. It opens in a new tab. Again, we want to hold down our left mouse button, drag it to our original tab, and drop it into our area, our working space. Again, way too big for what we want to do, so we can use the shrink function by making sure the opposable arrows show. Shrink it down a little bit here. That's about the right size. That looks in proportion and balance. And again, we have to click the green check mark to say, yes, that's what I want to happen. So imagine if you had this and you had your heart glued down, but you left the top unglued. You could slide this right in here. This would be a nice thing to put a photo on, maybe write a little bit of journaling on it. This is a cute little item. We'll do one more item here for you just to give you the resizing again, just for practice. We'll choose this charm. Isn't that a pretty little metal charm here? Let's drag, put it up onto our workspace. It creates a new tab again for this. We press down our left mouse button, we hold it down, we drag it to our original tab, we wait until we have our cursor over our work area, we let go of our mouse button, and there it is. It's dropped it in here. Now again, you'll see that where I've placed it, you can see that it's going to be in behind everything. I don't want that. I want it on the very top. So let's go over to our layers panel. You see that it's layer 7 is what it's calling it. Let's hold down our left mouse button, drag that up to the top, let go of our mouse button, and now, as you can see, that is on the very top. So let's again shrink this charm. There's the opposing arrows. We shrink it down so it's about the right size that it would be appropriate on this. And there it is. I have to click my green check mark to say, yes, I commit to that. And there it is. So obviously this is a very elementary card. This isn't probably a creation you would make. So you would want to go a little bit more intricate, but I just wanted to show you the functions of how to resize, how to get the appropriate things. Now what we do with this, I'm going to scroll out so that way we have a full piece of paper to work with. In order to prepare this, in order to print it out, if this was all the elements that we wanted, we thought, nope, this is the card. I've got everything I need. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take and move my flower off. I'm going to move my heart off. I'm going to move my tag off. I'm going to move this second paper down. And I have my little charm. And there we go. Sorry, I'll back right in for you again. When you have your move tool selected, whichever item you click on, so just one left click, it's going to highlight it, and that's now the item you're moving. So that's the item I'm moving. I go across to here, you'll see that big blue box come around it to say, do you want to highlight this? Left click once, now I can move this item around. So that's how you do that. That's an easy way of knowing that that's the layer you're choosing. So here it is. Now, as you can see, this is available for print because I have all the separate elements and they're all in the size that I want them for the particular project that I'm working on. And this is going to save you a lot of paper and a lot of ink by just having the one sheet. If we go back up to the top here, we have all those tabs open. So with all these tabs open, you can now go back up, and because we don't need these anymore, you can click off the little X next to each tab and it just gets rid of each of these. They're not something that we need anymore, so we're just back to this print here. Now the other thing I'll show you is because you're probably going to make a more elaborate card than what we actually have here, you're going to end up with too many elements to just put on one page. So what we end up doing is we go up to File, we highlight over New and choose another blank file. Again, it's asking us what paper size we want and everything else, and since we're here, we're going to do 8.5 by 11. And again, it creates another new tab for you. So what we would do is, let's just say the heart, that was the best you could do. Well, it's overhanging onto the paper. We don't want to print it that way. we're going to move it just like as if we had brought the element in originally from the file folder. And we are going to grab that heart, left click and hold it on top of the new area, and the new tab, and now it's placed the heart onto this other separate sheet. So you can drag on as many other items onto your second sheet, so then that way you will probably won't have that more than 2 that you're actually going to want to print. When I come back here, it's just done a copy, so if this heart was on here and we know it's not good enough, we're just going to press the delete key on our keyboard. It's going to say, you sure you want to delete this layer? I'm going to say yes. So then that way we have a sheet here that will only contain the elements that fit on this page. I'll go back here and I'll just delete this because we don't need that. Whoops. We'll just X that out, and we don't want to save that. Now we're back on here, and again I want to hit my edit and undo delete layer, so that way I can undo the action that I just previously had, so I can put that back on there. That's simple and easy to do. So there you have it. There's the full print sheet. You have each of the elements that you want. They're all sized appropriately. The pattern is the right size for the project that you're working on, and you're going to save yourself a lot of paper and ink by doing this way. I hope that you've enjoyed the video. I know that you probably are thinking, wow, that was a lot to learn in just one 30-minute video here. But what I would suggest is go to Adobe, download the program, open it up for yourself, and then that way rewatch the video. You're going to see things the second time around when you watch it that you maybe missed the first time around, or you can follow along, which is the best practice. Follow along with what I've done in the video. You can press pause on the video and do it yourself in here. You can rewind and fast forward again. That's the great thing about video. And by the time you've completed this one simple little project like this, you're going to be old hat at it. You're going to know exactly how to resize. You're going to know how to get that paper the exact size that you want and just that little piece of paper that you want, and you'll be off to the races. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Don't hesitate to leave me comments or email us through the store if you have questions. I'm more than happy to help you guys out. I want to encourage you and help you along. It is an easy process. You'll get used to it quite quickly, and you'll be off to the races using digital goods. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.